Hello everyone, this is Nikhil again with Study Web Marketing. In this session, we're going to discuss Google AdWords tracking template and custom parameters. We're going to discuss why we should use these new features, when we should use these new features, and how we should use these new features. So we're going to start with why. With these new features, there are several reasons to use these new features, but top three I'll mention here are if you want to append your campaign with tracking parameters, your campaign can have literally thousands of URLs, and adding tracking parameters to each of them can be quite repetitive and boring task as well as time consuming. Uh, that time can be saved by using tracking template and custom parameters. If there is a change in your tracking template, so your tracking URLs, you'll have to manually change several thousand URLs again, which again is a time consuming and boring job that also can be avoided with help of tracking template and custom parameters. Third and most important advantage is when there is a change in ad destination URL, what happens is basically ad goes through the approval cycle again, which during which time you lose on impressions and clicks for your campaign. You don't want your ad to go through your approval cycles again and again. With use of tracking templates, you can change your tracking parameters as many times as you want, but your ads or keywords or site links will not go through the approval chain even once. So let's get started. Let's understand the basic concepts of tracking template and custom parameter. So the first concept is final URL. Final URL is URL where you want your users to land without any tracking parameters. So if you want your users to land on example.com, then your final URL is example.com. Tracking template. Tracking template is a URL which redirects user to your final URL or which appends certain tracking parameters to your final URL based on whatever template that you have created. Custom parameters. Now these are there are basically three custom parameters which you can use per tracking template, and you can create variables in these custom parameters which in turn you can use in tracking templates. How to use this we'll see in following slides with real example as usual. Now there are there are several types of tracking template levels. Now you can create a tracking template at campaign level. If you create a tracking template at campaign level, this template will be applied to all the URLs, whether they be keyword level URLs or ad level URLs or site link level URLs. They will be applied. Campaign level tracking template will be applied to all the URLs inside that campaign. Same about ad group level URLs. If you create ad group level tracking template, it will be applied to every URL under that campaign, under that ad group, whether it be ad level URL or keyword level URL or site link level URL. Now ad level URL and keyword level URL and site link level URL, when you if you apply these, then only those entities, those relevant entities will be impacted by this change. But the advantage of having a campaign level or ad group level URL is that even if you change the tracking template, your ad or keyword or site link will not go through the approval process again, while if you use ad level or keyword level or site link level URL, those entities will go through the approval chain again. Now let's understand what some examples of tracking template first and then custom parameters. So let's consider that you want your users to land on example.com, and you have a tracking partner, let's say tracking.com, through which you route your traffic to example.com. In which case you will your tracking partner has given you a template which tells you to redirect your users to your landing page URL with parameter called URL is equal to. Now, as you have created the final URL as example.com, that by default can be used in a macro called lpurl. So if you put lpurl in curly braces, this by default will be replaced by whatever the final URL that you have chosen. So your tracking template becomes trackingtemplate.com question mark URL is equal to lpurl. So in effect, it will become, the result will become tracking.com question mark URL is equal to example.com, as you can see in the screenshot as well. Now let's take another example. Let's say you want your users to land on a search page of your website based on whatever keyword that has triggered your ad. So in that case, your tracking template will become lpurl. So let's consider that search term is the query string that you use for searches on your website. So then it becomes lpurl, which will be replaced by example.com after user clicks on the ad, and then search term is equal to keyword, which will be replaced by whatever the keyword which triggered your ad. So your landing page URL result will be example.com slash search term is equal to shoes if user was searching for shoes. Let me give you a live demo of this one in AdWords account. You can find these settings under campaign settings or in ad group or at keyword level or ad level. You can just add those columns to your report and you can edit templates there. I'm just going to talk about campaign level tracking template in this session. Under settings, last option you'll find campaign URL options advanced. In this, first option you have is tracking template. Now consider you want your users to land via a tracking partner, in which case you can use this kind of URL here. Just copying this and paste. Or if you want to append something like a search term to your all your campaign, all URLs in this particular campaign, you can use this here. This will become example.com slash search term is equal to shoes if user had used search for this. You can also click on test to understand to look if this URL really works. Are there any ads in, if there are any ads in your campaign, it will show you result how this URL will work for you or not. Now let's understand custom parameters. Custom parameters are basically three variables which are available to you, which you can define as you wish and then in turn use them inside the tracking template. So let's take an example of that one. Let's keep our final URL as example.com and custom parameter. Let's say you want to pass a campaign name inside your final URL as with UTM campaign. For if you're let's say you're tagging UTMs manually. Now if you have to do this for every URL in your campaign, you'll have to do this manually, or you'll have to basically write some kind of Excel or spreadsheet jugglery which will append campaign name to each of your URLs and then upload those URLs into your campaign, something like that. But this makes your life a lot simpler. What you can do is basically you can create a variable called campaign here, and you put your campaign name here. I'm just going to consider the campaign name as campaign name for the sake of example. Now, what you can do is your variable name becomes campaign, which you can use inside your tracking template, like lpurl question mark utm underscore source is equal to campaign. So underscore campaign, you can't just do campaign underscore campaign. As you can see that each of the custom parameters are starting with underscore. So whatever name you give to your custom parameters, an underscore will be at the start of that particular name, which you have to use when you're appending them to a tracking template. Let's take another use case for this. So one is you can use, let's say, as you said, as we have already discussed here, you can use a campaign name. Now let's say you have groups of campaign. You have some campaigns which are for your brand keywords. There are some campaigns for display. There are some campaigns for remarketing. There are some campaigns for buyers or non-buyers, or you have grouped campaigns in whatever logic that you feel you're comfortable with. Now that particular uh, that particular uh, identifier of campaign groups you want to pass in your URLs for the purpose of tracking. How to do that? What you can do is you can just create one more custom parameter. Okay, just a second, let me save this first. So you can create one more custom parameter. So we had created one called campaign. Second one, let's call it campaign group. And let's give it, so for this particular campaign, let's see your campaign group is brand KW, which is for brand, which represents brand keywords. Now what you can do here is again and campaign underscore group is equal to underscore campaign group, which when user clicks on it, this campaign will be replaced by real campaign name, which you have defined here, and this underscore campaign group will be replaced by brand keyword, which you have defined here. This can save a ton of time that you spend creating your tracking URLs or your UTMs and stuff like that. So just go ahead and try it out. It's a great feature. You can always test what you're doing. So you can use this test button to make sure that everything is working and you're not breaking anything. So go ahead, go wild, try whatever parameters you want to try. Also take a look at value track parameters. You can just Google for value track parameters Adwords. There are several pre-built parameters that you can use in these templates. I'll also be having another session on which is dedicated to value track soon. Hope you enjoyed this session. Thanks a lot. And if you liked it, please do subscribe to my video channel. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.